Alrighty, hello, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Hi, Stacy. Hi, Katie, Celia. Awesome. I'm looking forward to today's webinar on groundwork. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. So go ahead, open up the chat and let me know where you're tuning in from. I'd also love to hear how the weather is. I know that it's like cold and snowing in a lot of places, which is a perfect day to be learning about groundwork. So let's see. Hi, Kara. Hi, Barb from Minnesota. Awesome. Snowing in Ohio, San Marcos, Virginia. Awesome. I love how we always have people from all over the world coming to these webinars. And like I said, I'm just really looking forward to today's webinar on groundwork. I'm trying to adjust my lighting a little bit. So yeah, we're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. If you're just tuning in, open up the chat and introduce yourself. I'd also love to hear why you're here today, what you're hoping to learn about groundwork, and how I can help you out, because groundwork is something that I'm just so passionate about, something that I do with all my horses, something I teach all my students. I've been working really hard on this presentation over the past week. So I'm excited to help you out and give you some tips and tricks and help you understand a little bit more about my system and how I use groundwork, not only for developing trust, but then also for training the dressage movements from the ground, which is where I think that it gets super, super exciting. So if you're just tuning in, welcome. Open up the chat and introduce yourself. We're going to get started here. It's right 8 o'clock. So we're going to go ahead and kick off today's webinar, which is all about establishing trust and connection from the ground. So I'm super excited about today's webinar. I always try to make these webinars a little different, and I wanted to really focus today on connection and groundwork. A couple of quick announcements before we get started. Open up the chat, introduce yourself. My team, Lexi and Joellen, are here helping out. I know some of you are on Zoom. Hello on Zoom. Some of you are on YouTube. I also want to welcome you if this is your first webinar with me. I love doing these webinars. I love teaching you online, and I'm excited to be a part of your journey. Today's webinar is going to be about 90 minutes. I have a lot to cover, and I also have two super cool videos to show you since you're here live. There is going to be a little time for Q&A at the end of the session, so be typing your questions as we go in the chat. And then go ahead and let me know why you're here today, like what you're hoping I can help you with as far as solving some issue that you're having on the ground or under saddle. So why groundwork? Why now? I was thinking about this because sometimes I feel like, I don't know, like, should I even teach groundwork? Everyone just wants to ride. And then I was like, yes, groundwork is so important. It's a skill that I use all the time with every single horse I ride, with every single student. And especially now in the winter when it's cold and it's so hard to stay consistent and you're feeling frustrated because the weather isn't good, it's such a great skill to have. And today we're going to be focusing on this word connection. And think about that word connection, because to me, there's two components of connection, okay? So there's that emotional connection that we want to have with our horses, like that bond and that partnership and that unity. And I don't know about you, but to me, that's what I love. I love it when I go to the barn and my horses stick their head out of their stall, or when you go to get them in the pasture and they come towards you in the pasture, or when you just feel like you're moving together as one. That emotional connection is so cool with our horses. And the second part of connection is the physical connection, right? Like when you're riding and you just feel like your horse is round and soft and you're moving in the saddle, and that part of it is addictive. That's what I love the most about riding. And groundwork really is the key to both having that emotional and that physical connection. So in today's webinar, I'm going to teach you the system that I use to develop connection with my horses. And here's the thing is I know that this system is also going to work for you, because I've taught hundreds, probably thousands of students through my online programs my system of groundwork, and it always makes me smile. I have a really cool example of one of my students to show you today doing groundwork. So let me tell you a quick little story about how groundwork saved my horse Geronimo. And when I was 14, I got a beautiful warm blood named Geronimo, and 3, 4 months later, he started rearing. Like, he had this really bad problem where he would just stand on his hind legs. And what started the rearing issue was I was trying to get him round, and I was trying to get his head down, and I'd never trained a horse before. And so I was putting too much pressure, too much leg, too much hand. He started rearing. Unfortunately, he got labeled as like a bad horse, a dangerous horse. I should get rid of him. We got kicked out of our barn. Thank goodness that my amazing mom was like, no, we're not going to give up. We're going to try something different. We're going to figure out how to work with Geronimo. And we ended up at a cowboy. And what the first part of saving Geronimo was establishing that emotional connection, because the truth was that Geronimo didn't trust me because I didn't know how to be a leader to Geronimo, and I didn't know how to communicate with Geronimo. And so he didn't feel safe with me. So from groundwork, I was able to figure out how to communicate with him and how to get him to trust me. And then the second part of why he was rearing was the physical side of it. So Geronimo was 4. He was this 17-hand warm blood. He didn't know how to soften and release and give in his body. And so because of that, his only option when I was pressuring him was to rear. So groundwork, I can't even imagine if I didn't have groundwork, I don't know what would have happened with Geronimo. So that's why I'm super excited to share today. And go ahead, let me know in the chat, when we think about this word connection, do you feel like you're struggling more with the emotional connection with your horse, or are you struggling more with the physical connection of like getting your horse around and getting your horse to soften? So I'm going to be covering both of those things today. And I also want to remind you that groundwork isn't just for Western riders. Groundwork isn't just for beginners or people that have problem horses. Groundwork is an integral part of being a horseman or a horsewoman. It's an integral part of communication and trust and teaching those upper levels of dressage. Groundwork is about establishing that communication. So give me a thumbs up if you're excited. I have so much to cover. I know I'm going to go fast through today. So let me know if you can see my slides, and let me go ahead and enter my full screen. Alrighty, if you're tuning in here a few minutes late, welcome. Go ahead and open up the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from. So today we're talking about how we can establish trust and connection with groundwork. Let me know which of these most speaks to you. You're here today because A, you want to feel brave and confident. B, you want to be able to trust and communicate with your horse. C, you want your horse to be rounder under saddle. D, you want to teach your horse how to pee off. Or E, it's winter and you can't ride and you're feeling very frustrated. Okay, I see a lot of A's and C's. All right. So first off, let's define it. What is groundwork? Groundwork is any time that you are on the ground with your horse. And if you ride horses, you do groundwork. I think that's kind of a common misconception. The difference, though, is whether you're aware of it. So are you aware, when you go into the stall and put the halter on? Are you aware when you're leading your horse that your horse is really paying attention to you? Are you aware when you're mounting your horse? Are you aware of all those things so that you can stay safe, so that you can get your horse in the trailer? So to me, groundwork is not lunging your horse until they're exhausted, letting them just race around you. To me, that's not productive. Groundwork is not just tying your horse, using contraptions to tie your horse's head down. And groundwork is also not waiting until you have a problem. So we really want to use groundwork proactively before our horse rears or knocks us down or pulls away from us. I have a very unique approach to groundwork. So about 15 years ago, this is a photo of me here. That's Geronimo over there on the right. And the photo there on the left that is my string of, I think there's about 15 horses there. I worked for Minnie Bauer, who's Buck Brannaman's sister-in-law, and I started young horses. I got all the problem horses, and every single one of those horses, I used Groundwork as a tool so that I could stay safe with them, so that I could communicate with them, so that I could trust them before I got on them. Because I don't know about you, but I'm not particularly brave. I don't love getting on horses that are tense or nervous or spooky or bucking. But I think this photo is a testament to how much time I spent with all these horses on the ground. I mean, look at them. They're all standing there. They're paying attention to me. They're slacking the lead rope. I'm still pretty impressed by this photo. I don't know about you. Deb says I look like a Manhattan dog walker. Okay, I'll take that as a compliment. So not only do I use Groundwork for young horses or green horses, but today I still do Groundwork with my Grand Prix horses, because what I've discovered is that you can and should teach a lot of the dressage movements from the ground. So there on the left is Kensington. Kensington is getting ready to do the I2 this year. And even with Kensington, you know, he's very well trained, but I still find that doing a day or two a week of Groundwork with him really helps him to loosen up his top line and to engage his hind end and just to warm up his muscles before I get on his back. If you're new here, I want to welcome you. Hi, I'm Amelia, and my mission is Dressage for All. So let's all type that in the chat, Dressage for All. And I love helping riders of all different levels. I love working with horses of all different breeds and temperaments, because I really believe that dressage is the foundation of all riding and all disciplines. And I also believe that you can do this, and so can your horse. My promise to you today is I'm going to teach you how a daily Groundwork practice is the best way to improve your connection with your horse. And unfortunately, many riders are never taught Groundwork. Their trainers don't teach it, or they're just never given that opportunity. They don't know which exercises to do. And what I always love is when people come into my programs, for example, 30 Days to Round is one of my most popular programs, and they start doing the Groundwork and they're like, oh my gosh, I love this system. I did a Groundwork session before I got on my horse and I had the best ride ever. So Groundwork is kind of one of those things that it's like, you don't necessarily, we all just want to ride, but once you understand how valuable it is, then you're like, okay, I get it. I'm going to do Groundwork more frequently with my horse. Today's agenda, number one, Groundwork is an insurance policy every rider should carry. Secret number two is why and how you should teach connection or roundness from the ground. The third part is why most riders don't do Groundwork and how Groundwork can actually save you time. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about my Groundwork Super Pack course, and then we'll have time for Q&A. And I also have a special live video to show you for those of you who are here live. I want to thank you for showing up live. It's awesome to have so many people here early on Saturday morning. So go ahead and type in the chat, I do Groundwork. And I really want you to learn from today. And then I want to challenge you to go out and take action on this. So this week, I want you to get out there and try some of the exercises that I'm going to teach you today. Even just being more aware of every moment that you spend with your horse on the ground is going to have a huge impact so that you can start to really develop more connection and more partnership with your horse. So who here has ever been stepped on, kicked, bucked off, bolted, bitten? It made me so sad this week. There were 2 posts in our Facebook group, Amelia's Dressage Club, of riders who'd gotten hurt and fallen off, concussions, like injuries. And the truth of the matter is that we love horses, but they're dangerous, right? And while we can't avoid every single accident, I do think that a lot of accidents can be avoided with Groundwork. And that means a lot to me. So I there was this story of 3 weeks after I got married, I got on this horse Buka, and I'd ridden him a lot. I always rode him in the morning though. And so I got on him and it was late in the afternoon and the sun was going down and he was super tight in his back. And I was like 26 and I was like, oh, I'll be fine. I can ride through it. And he bucked me off and I broke my collarbone and my ribs and I collapsed my lung and it was awful. And I look back and I think, if only I'd gotten off and done groundwork. You know, that little voice in your head that's like, hey, you know, you should probably get off and do some groundwork, and you ignore it and then you regret it. So what's important to understand is that horses don't intentionally hurt us. They're wonderful, they're kind, they're honest creatures, but their brains work very differently from ours. So we have a prefrontal cortex, which means that we reason and we problem solve. Horses do not. So in your horse's brain, they go direct from sensory information to their motor cortex. So this means that if something scares your horse, they don't think like, oh, I don't want to throw my rider off. I don't want to hurt my rider. Do I really need to spook at this? They just get that sensory information and immediately they spin around and take off. They can react 5 times as fast as we can because of this. So you can't change your horse's instinctual reactions. You're not going to ever take that instinct out of them, but you can manage those instincts and manage those reactions through groundwork. So give me a thumbs up if you're excited to see, all right, so how are we going to manage those reactions? Because Amelia, that sounds really good, right? So I like to think of groundwork as an insurance policy, and we all carry insurance on our house, on our car. Probably you have it on your horse. But the thing with any insurance is that it's nice to have for an accident or to prevent an accident, but you have to pay the premium before you need your insurance. You cannot wait until you have a problem. So when we talk about groundwork as our insurance policy, we need this insurance when it's cold and winter, like right now, when your horse has been off, when you go to a new property, when your horse gets spooky, when your horse feels like exploding, when you're rehabbing, or in an emergency. And here's 3 exercises that you should do every single day with your horse to install your insurance policy. They're simple, easy, and they don't take much time. The first exercise is what I call red light, green light. And this is just simply when you're leading your horse. When you go, your horse should go. When you stop, your horse should stop. When you back up, your horse should back up. And I want you to try this next time. I want you to stand up tall, walk quickly forward for 5 or 6 steps, halt abruptly, walk quickly forward for 5 or 6 steps, halt abruptly, and see what happens. It should be like dancing. Your horse should follow your body language. When you stand up tall and lean forward, your horse should walk with you. You shouldn't even have to pull. You shouldn't have to take the slack out of your lead line. When you stop, your horse should stop. It should be like dancing. You're the leader and your horse is the follower. So let me know in the chat who thinks that their horse does that really, really well, like red light, green light, red light, green light. And I want you to challenge yourself next time you do it and really check in and make sure that, for those of you saying yes, I want you to make sure that you can do it with more energy and without taking the slack out of the line. I don't want you to have to pull at all on the lead rope. And the reason that this is so important is, 1, for safety, but also the way that your horse is on the ground is going to mirror how they are when you ride them. So if your horse is really lazy and dragging behind you when you're leading them and you can't walk fast on the ground, guess what? They're going to be lazy when you get on them. If your horse is dragging you around, or like the expression here of the horse looking away from you, pushing their shoulder towards you, not paying any attention to you on the ground, that's going to carry over to when you're riding them. So pay a little bit more attention when you're leading your horse and check this out with your horse. The second exercise is the space bubble. This one is really important because has anyone here ever been stepped on or knocked down by a horse when the horse has gotten scared? Again, it's not your horse's intention to ever hurt you, but when something scares them and they panic, their reaction is so fast that they forget that they could hurt you. So this space bubble is really important that you practice all the time when your horse isn't scared. I'm going to say that again. You've got to practice these exercises before your horse panics, before you need your insurance policy. So I like to think of an imaginary 2 to 3 foot space bubble around me. And I don't want my horse to think that they can come towards me. I don't want them to think that safety is jump on top of Amelia. I want them to think that safety is go around Amelia. So I'm super aware that if my horse comes into my space bubble, I just simply ask them to back away again. And the more proactive that you can be about this, the better. But that way, if you're particular about this, when something scares your horse, they'll go around you instead of right on top of you. So let me know if this is making sense. If you're like, okay, I think I should be a little more particular with my horse on a day-to-day basis. The third exercise is the pull release. So the pull release is an exercise where you put pressure on, like I'm doing here. I have pressure on the halter and also on the pull. And you apply that pressure to get your horse to lower their head. The reason that the pull release is so important is because the pull area is the connection between your horse's brain and body. So if you can get your horse to lower their head, it's going to relax your horse. And let me explain that a little bit more. When we're riding, right, we want our horse to put their head down in the stretch circle, in the free walk. We also want to be able to control that left and right flexion to be able to bend our horses on the circle. And that all starts from the ground. So here's one of my students. This is Kara. She's a hunter jumper rider riding Madeline, an off the track thoroughbred. I saw in the chat earlier, I know we have some off the track thoroughbreds. So the frame of the body, the way that your horse carries themselves, determines the frame of mind. So if we look at the photo on the left here, and we can see Madeline's head is straight up in the air. She's quite hollow in her back. And this is like the adrenaline state for horses, right? When your horse panics, their head goes up, they go to bolt or whatever. When this adrenaline happens, it contracts all the fascia in their muscles and they become very, very tight. When we can get our horse to lower their head and round, it helps our horse to relax, right? And so Kara did a lot of groundwork with Madeline, and she says here, before she was anxious, nervous, uptight, and lacked confidence. But as she was able to change her frame and get her to lower her neck, she has transformed from nervous, uptight horse into a more relaxed, supple, and balanced horse. So going back to this pull release, asking your horse to put their head down on the ground is going to help them to relax and focus. And it's also going to help them when you get on them so that you can shape their body, so that you can get them to lower their head when you get on them. And yeah, it takes consistency. Kara worked on the groundwork exercises every single day just to really help Madeline change her patterns, right? Madeline had such a pattern of just head up, body tense. And so the more that you can on the ground remind your horse to lower their head, remind your horse to soften, the more that's going to carry over into the riding. And remember that your horse wants you to be a confident leader, much like a parent. So when we think about bonding with our horses and we want to have that emotional connection with our horses, the best thing that you can do is to be a confident leader. You know, when you get your horse out of their stall, to give them some direction, to say, come on, walk forward, stop, lower your head. And then, of course, praise your horse. And I love this story of Annette and her horse. And she started doing the pull release with her horse, Sunny. And then she's like, now Sunny does the pull release on his own every time he stands next to me. I love being in sync with my horse as we march together to get that smooth feeling. I love his expectant look when he's waiting for me at the tie up. So the best thing that you can do for your horse is to give them direction, to give them confidence, to help them manage their stress level and their body shape so that they can relax. So those are your three. I mean, I know there's a lot more exercises, but I don't have time to cover all of them. But those are just three exercises that I want you to all start to really pay attention to and really incorporate into your routine with your horse. And if you're already doing them, I think that you could make them even better. I think that you could really take it to the next level and be even more particular with your horses, because the more that your horse reads you and follows your body language, the better that connection is. So hopefully you're with me so far. Hopefully this is making sense. Let's go ahead and share, what is your goal for 2026? We did that epic boot camp at the beginning of January, which was so much fun. But I would guess that your goal is probably a little out of your comfort zone, right? Maybe I see some of you want to go to a show this year, or some of you want to be able to take your horse on a trail ride or go away to a clinic. And wouldn't it be great if you had this insurance policy, if you knew that, okay, at least on the ground, you could get your horse to pay attention and put their head down and back away from you? Because with this insurance policy, you're going to feel a lot braver to try to load your horse in the trailer or to go to that horse show or whatever it is that you feel like is your goal for this year. All right, so we've talked about how Groundwork is an insurance policy that every rider should carry. Next, we're going to dive into where I think it gets really fun, which is why and how you should teach connection or roundness from the ground. And let me know in the chat, which horse would you rather ride, A or B? I know, okay, I see a lot of you saying B. Yes, okay, definitely. Why would we rather ride the horse over there in B? Well, because like we talked about, Kensington there, he looks more relaxed. He looks like he's paying attention to me. It looks like I could turn and stop and all those things that we want. Horse number A, you're like, I don't know. It looks like I might get hit in the face by his head. You can see his eye. He looks quite stressed. You can see his muscles are very tense. His underneck is bulging. And I'm going to tell you that horse number A, just trying to force him round, like kicking and pulling, it wouldn't work, right? It would probably just make the problem even worse. So how do we help our horses go from A to B? Like, how can we do that? For me, I would do groundwork. I don't know about you, but I'm like, I don't know if I really want to get on that horse. I don't want to get hurt. I don't want to have a bad experience. So we talked about this word connection, and connection creates a flow of energy so that you can ride with harmony and balance. So when we have connection, our horses are round, right? Their hind end is engaged, their top line is lifted, they're round in their neck. And we both have this physical shape of the horse, but we also have this mental connection, because when your horse is round, mentally, they're much more with you. They're much more paying attention to you. So roundness is the shape of connection. So would you believe me if I told you that I fix all of my connection issues from the ground? Like every single horse, if they're hollow, if they're fussy, if they're curling, if they're uneven in the contact, I always address it from the ground. Geronimo, I told you the story of Geronimo at the beginning. He had this terrible rearing problem, and groundwork was the solution to that. Groundwork was what we used to get Geronimo to go from rearing and labeled as a dangerous, terrible horse to look at this. I just love this photo of Geronimo over here on the right. So Here, Geronimo doesn't even have a bit in his mouth. I'm just riding him with a Bosal. You can see that there's slack in the rein, like he's not tense. And you can see how nice and round he is, which is I just love that. Okay, so you're probably, oh, I'm going to dive into it in 1 second, how we do this. So roundness is easier for your horse when you're not sitting on top of them. So if we look at our horse's skeleton here, right, when we're sitting on top of them, we're pushing down onto their vertebrae. We're pushing down onto their spine. So basically our weight on their back is causing our horses to hollow out. So you can imagine that if you could get your horse to round and get those muscles a little bit stronger before you even get on them, that's going to be easier for your horse, right? And also easier for you. And the other thing is that you're way safer and you're more effective from the ground. Like I mentioned, any connection issue, I'm like, I'm going to try to fix this before I get on because I don't want to have a bad experience. I don't want my horse to have a bad experience. And the other thing is that so this is an example in this picture here. I'm teaching Kensington to do a turn on the forehand from the ground. And you can see how getting your horse to move sideways, look at how much more effective I am on the ground. So this orange circle, you can see how my whole body is on his right side, and I can visually see his legs crossing over and I can see him round. Versus when you're sitting on your horse, you just have your puny little leg over there trying to get your horse to move over, right? So yeah, everyone's saying this is super cool. Isn't it cool? It's like, yes, groundwork is like a whole nother skill set. It's a whole nother avenue so that you can be more effective in communicating with your horse. So I'm going to dive in now because I know you're all dying to know, okay, Amelia, like, how do we actually do this? How do we get our horses round from the ground? So I teach the 4 steps around, and this is what I use in my 30 days to round program, but you can do all of it from the ground. So let me know if you want to see how to do all of these 4 phases from the ground, because you can totally 100% teach your horse to go around from the ground. And then when you get on them, it's like easy. Okay, so we already learned step 1. Step 1 is that red light, green light. And step 1 is really about getting energy, getting your horse going forward and where you can control that energy. Just like when you get on, the first thing that you need to do before you ask your horse to go around is you got to get them going forward. So we've got to get that. I usually start by leading like this, and then I'll attach a lunge line and get your horse kind of just marching around you on like a 10-ish meter circle. Then the second step is bend. And being able to bend your horse left and right, that really is the prerequisite to round, because bend is like getting your horse to round one side at a time. So when your horse is bending to the left, they're stretching their right side of their back muscles. They're lifting up through the right side of their back. When you bend them the other way, the opposite happens. And then if you can get them bending left and bending right, it's way easier for them to come round with a correctly engaged hind end, lifting in the back and round in the neck. So does anyone here ever feel like they're just trying to force it? Like they're kicking and pulling and they can't get their horse round. I know I feel that way sometimes. And bending your horse side to side really is the secret to getting out of that. It's the secret to feeling like you can get your horse to soften without putting so much pressure on your horse. So what I teach my horses from the ground is what I call inside rein to inside hind. This is a super important movement for safety, number 1, because it teaches your horse to bend and turn. And if you can bend and turn your horse, you can stay safe. You can control those reactions, right? We're not going to ever be able to take out the spooking or the running instinct from our horses, because that's what keeps our horses safe for millions of years. But we can do is when they get that trigger, when they spook or they bolt, if we can bend them and turn them, then we can stay safe. The second part of that is that this bending and turning is also really, really important for teaching roundness and teaching your horse how to soften on the ground. And this is what I was missing with Geronimo. This is why Geronimo was rearing, is because he didn't know how to yield in his body. He didn't know how to give to the pressure. I never taught Geronimo how to bend. I never taught him how to yield. So what you want with inside rein to inside hind is that you want that when you take the inside rein, like I'm doing here from the ground. So I'm taking the left rein and I want Mercurio to bend his neck around and to step his left hind over and across. So you can see here how he's bending in his neck and the left hind is stepping over and across. And yes, okay, is he over bent in the neck? I know some people are probably like, but he's over bent in the neck. Yes, he is a little bit over bent in the neck, but it's a process. And the bend in the neck is allowing me to get to the hindquarters and also to get him to unlock in his back and in his body. So, okay, we've got forward, we've got bend. The next step, so after you do the inside rein to inside hind, where you're like, Amelia, but he's over bending in his neck. Yes, he is. That's a phase. It's always important that you understand the steps to training a horse. And that's why I'm so glad that you're here today. And this is what I was missing with Geronimo is I knew that I needed to get him round, but I didn't know the steps to get there. So there is this phase where, yeah, your horse overbends and they drift a little through the outside. Then you introduce your outside rein. So once you do inside rein to inside hind, you put the reins over your horse's neck. And here I have the outside rein. You can see how the outside rein is now connected with Kensington. And I still have him yielding. I still have him crossing over. I have him bending, but I've introduced the outside rein. Once you have this, then you can get your horse round from the ground. And I do this all the time with my horses is like, you can pretty much ride them from the ground. You're walking beside them, you're holding the reins, you can flex them, you can get them forward. It's really cool. It's so cool how much you can really teach your horse from the ground. And just doing this a little bit before you get on your horse can make such a huge difference. Because developing your horse's top line, getting your horse to lift their hind end, getting your horse off of the forehand, that is so much easier for your horse to do when you're not sitting on top of them, right? When you're not sitting on the top line and putting even more weight on the forehand. So give me a thumbs up if this is making sense. And I'd also love to know in the chat, if you can type in the chat, how is your horse's frame? So is your horse hollow and above the bit? Is your horse curled behind the contact and like won't take the bit? Is your horse too strong? Is your horse fussy? Okay, I say inconsistent, hollow, he curls, all of the above, hollow. Okay, I have good news for all of you. Following that system that I just showed you it can fix all of those things that you're listing in the chat. And like I said, I always find that I'm more effective, that it's easier for my horse if I can do it from the ground. And I want to give you some examples because I have proof of this. So this is Joan and her sweet mare Halo, who's beautiful paint. She says he's a plank, super stiff, super heavy, but after groundwork and doing it correctly, she says, for the first time, I felt what soft was. We felt like we were floating. Groundwork, it unlocks your horse. It unlocks like this magical feeling in your horse. I can remember when I first moved to California, my trainer, Sue, she was brilliant on the ground. She was really good on the long lines. And she long lined my horse Trumpet. And then she was like, okay, get on him. And I got on him and it was amazing. His back was so supple and up and like swinging. And it was like something I'd never felt in him before. And groundwork isn't just for young horses or problem horses. Amber here, she has an older horse and she used groundwork as part of her routine before she got on her horse. And again, she was like, my biggest takeaway is that groundwork isn't just for baby horses. I've learned that consistency is an important tool. So it really helped her to get him a little bit more unlocked and to stay consistent, right? On those days that you can't ride. Okay, so do you see how groundwork could help with your connection? Let me know in the chat. And I know that there's some questions, so I have a video for you. So I would recommend even just doing like 5 minutes of this before you get on would really, really help to get your horse a little bit more unlocked, to help warm your horse up. I always would rather ride than do groundwork, but it's so valuable. So do you want to see an example of one of my students doing this? Because I know I can see in the chat, there's like lots of questions like, where does your outside rein go? Where's your body supposed to be positioned? All of those things. Okay, so let me pull up my video. And I'm so proud of this video. When I saw this video, I was like, it almost brought tears to my eyes because Rebecca is one of my longtime students, and I've only worked with her virtually. So I've never actually taught her in person. But so this is Rebecca and her young Frisian Imke. And I taught her my groundwork system. So I wanted to just go through and kind of show you what she's doing here with Imke, because I think that this is probably going to answer a lot of your questions. So hang on, let me just rewind here. So here she's doing inside rein to inside hind. You can see how she's getting Imke to give to that left rein, which she does really nicely. There's the pull release. Look how good Imke is. Isn't that awesome? So she put her pull on Imke's head, and Imke lowered her head super nicely. Okay, now she's gone to the right side, because remember, you want to work on this bending on both sides. You want to make sure that you can bend your horse to the left and bend your horse to the right. Also, you'll notice how she has her whip, and she's a little bit just pushing where her leg would go. So she's simulating her leg aid by giving Imke a little press with the stiff end of her whip, right where her leg would go. Okay, so step one is bending. Now let me show you the next thing Rebecca does is she's doing turn on the forehand. So you can see how now she has that outside rein there, right? You can see how the outside rein is going over Imke's withers. And now after she did the bending, now she's working on that inside leg, outside rein connection, right? We've all heard that. And look at how Imke starts to lift up in her back. She starts to engage her hind end a little more. And Rebecca's doing such a good job of stepping towards her. It's also really helpful because Rebecca can look and check and say, oh, like she's crossing her hind leg over. See that left hind. So it's such a good skill because it gives you a different visual. It gives you a different perception of it. All right. So then Rebecca goes on. I have some timestamps written down here. So next thing Rebecca is working with Imke is teaching her to leg yield from the ground. So this is what we call a head to the wall leg yield. And you can see this is a little hard for Imke, right? Like she got a little bit out of balance there, but it's so great with horses that are learning lateral work or learning connection. It's so great for them to be able to figure this out without having to manage us on their back, right? Without having to manage the weight of a rider on their back. And like I said, you can see the connection between Rebecca and Imke here, right? It's pretty amazing how they're communicating and they're trusting and they're working on all their dressage before they even get on. So let me know in the chat if this is really cool, if you're super proud of Rebecca. And I wanted to show you a little clip of her riding because I think that the proof is in the riding. So Rebecca posted this in the Facebook group. And of course I asked her if I could share. So this is Rebecca and Imke like a year ago or a little over a year ago. And Imke's a big moving horse, right? And Rebecca's a little small, petite thing. So Imke, you know, in this before video, she looks a little stiff. Like you can see she's quite hollow. She's not really round enough in the frame. Let's look at her most recent video. All right, look at the difference there. Isn't that cool? Look how round and soft she is. Look how much easier she looks to ride. Like Rebecca's just so quiet, sitting up straight. Okay, I see lots of beautiful, how lovely. Great work, Rebecca. So let me ask you this. Do you think that Rebecca's groundwork had anything to do with that transformation? Can you see how what she did on the ground helped her to get that to happen? And especially because, you know, Imke's big. She's a big girl. She's a big moving horse. She doesn't know where to put herself. And Rebecca's small. And so from the ground, she could help her more. She could help Imke find her balance. She could have a little bit more leverage. And then when she got on, she didn't have to go through that under saddle, right? She got on and Imke was already like, yeah, okay, I got it. I got inside leg. I got outside rein. I know how to do this. All right. So the goal with this groundwork is that one day you will be able to teach your horse to piaffe. Who here wants to be able to teach their horse to piaffe someday? Okay, I see a lot of hands going up. Yes. So this is the beginning. And yes, you can teach your horse to piaffe from the ground. All right, so we've covered a lot today. Next thing on my agenda is why most riders don't do groundwork. And the first reason is that, Amelia, oh my gosh, groundwork is so hard. I feel so discoordinated. I can barely walk. I don't know how to hold the reins. I'm tripping over my feet. Yes, we all go through that. I went through that too when I was learning to do groundwork, or when there's a photo of me learning how to rope. I learned how to rope cows. That was really hard. So like any new skill, learning is hard because it's something you don't know. That's a quote from Dennis the Menace. So definitely there's a learning curve to this skill. But I hope that you've seen today, it's worth it, right? It's worth going through that feeling totally awkward and discoordinated because it opens a whole new window of opportunity for communication with your horse. Second reason people don't do groundwork. Who here would rather ride than do groundwork? It's okay. I'm the same. I would rather ride than do groundwork. And there's also, I think, this perception of that if you're doing groundwork, that either it's because like you're afraid or you have a bad horse or you're too lazy to ride. But that's not true. I mean, for one, is groundwork actually will make your ride go better. And the second thing is that groundwork is an incredibly useful tool to help you develop connection with your horse and to help you warm your horse up and to check your horse out before you get on your horse. Okay, I see a lot of people saying, I don't have time for groundwork. Sometimes I think that too. I think I'm just in a hurry. I don't have time. I'm going to skip my groundwork. But the truth of the matter is that groundwork it will often save you time. So sometimes, especially if you feel like your horse is stiff and it takes them forever to warm up, just 5 minutes of groundwork before you get on, doing a little bending, getting the connection, getting your horse to lift up in their top line, like what we saw Rebecca doing. And you don't even have to do that much, but you can imagine that just doing a little bit of that would save you time. Young horses or green horses or retraining horses, I tend to do a bit more on the ground with them because groundwork is kind of one of those things that you want to do as little as necessary. You want to be as efficient with it, right? Because we're all limited on time. So you want to do as little as necessary, but as much as needed. And remember with this time thing, if you get hurt or if you have a bad experience with your horse, that's going to set you way back in time. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like that insurance policy idea. Doing a little groundwork might feel like it's taking time, but it will save you time. Like, gosh, I wish I had done groundwork that day with Fuka and didn't end up breaking all my bones because it took me forever to heal. The third reason is you're not sure, is groundwork, like, are the aids really going to transfer over to when I get on my horse? And I think that you could see with Rebecca that yes, right? So you can see here, I'm holding the reins. I have my outside rein connection. I have my inside hand connected. You can use a dressage whip to simulate the driving aids. You can also just push with your horse. Like you can push on your horse's side right where your leg would go. You can get your horse to round. You can get your horse to lift their back. So I don't know about you, but I would say, yeah, I think that, most of the aids you can simulate from the ground. Your seat is a little tricky, like, because obviously you're not sitting in the saddle, but the leg pressure, the rein pressure, the pull pressure, the whip, yeah, all that you can teach from the ground. One of my students, Sandra, I just love this quote. She was like, my biggest takeaway, which was quite an epiphany, is that you can train your horse on the ground. And when you get on, they know it. It's magic. It works. So I showed Sandra how to do the turn on the forehand in one of my online courses, and she did it with her horse. And then when she got on, she was just blown away, which was so cool. I don't know if any of you have ever experienced that, of doing something on the ground. And then horses are so smart. You get on and they're like, okay, yeah, I got it. The last reason maybe that you're not doing enough groundwork is that you don't think it will help you to reach your goals. Like you have this goal and you're like, well, I don't know, is groundwork really how important is groundwork to reaching my goals? I think it's essential. I think that groundwork is essential regardless of what your goal is. So let me know in the chat if I've convinced you, and I'd like you to make a commitment of, I do groundwork, and how many days per week are you committed to doing groundwork? Let's think about it just for this winter, right? So it's January. So if we do groundwork January, February, March, then come spring, we're going to be a lot better set up for spring and to get back into riding or to show or to do all of those things that you want to do. Okay, let me see in the chat. I see 3 to 4 days, 5 days a week. Awesome. I love it. 3. Okay, good. Okay, I think I've got you all committed to doing groundwork. So I know I've covered a lot today. Hopefully you've gotten a lot out of this webinar and you have some great ideas. If you're feeling a little like this, a little overwhelmed and like, oh my gosh, but how do I hold the reins? How do I position myself? Where do I push? What do I do when? I'd like to ask permission if it would be okay for me to take a few minutes to share about my groundwork program so that I can help you to implement what you've learned today. So if you feel like you need a little bit more hand holding, okay, I see, yes, please. All right. So what I've done today, since it's winter, and I know a lot of people have been requesting, is I've taken 2 of my best-selling master classes and combined them into one offer that I call Amelia's Ultimate Groundwork Super Pack. So this is everything from the essentials, from the beginning groundwork stuff, all the way up to teaching your horse how to piaffe. With this course, you'll learn how to read your horse, the basics of groundwork, dressage groundwork, lunging and long lining, piaffe training, everything that you need to develop that connection with your horse. This course is for you if you have a young horse, an older horse, if you want to overcome your fear and feel confident, if you're stuck teaching new movements or solving connection problems, if you don't have a trainer and you want to become more independent, if you don't have a perfectly trained horse, all of those things. So let's explain how this program works. The first part of the program really starts with understanding, because we forget how differently our horses' brains work. We talked a little bit about it today, but this was the piece I was missing with Geronimo. I'd never trained a horse before. I'd never had a young horse before, and I didn't really understand how to communicate with him. I didn't understand how to break things down. I didn't understand how to train him. So the first part of the course is the science of horsemanship. And this is where we dive into how horses perceive the world, how they see, how they smell, how sensitive they are, how we communicate through our body language and our intentions, so that we can train our horses through understanding and kindness rather than just force and frustration, which I know we all feel guilty about when we just get frustrated. The second part of the course is the essential exercises. So this is your insurance policy. These are 7 key exercises to control your horse's body and mind. This will help with shoeing, grooming, wash rack, mounting, bridling, leading, trailer loading, all those things that you need to do with your horse every day, because we spend a lot of time with our horses. This is Christy and her giant yearling. She joined my course a few years ago. And at the beginning, this guy was totally out of control. He was biting, he was rearing and kicking, he was crowding into her space. She was afraid to take him out of the stall. I was worried for her safety. And it just made me sad because, you know, the horse didn't feel safe. That's kind of why he was doing all of this. She didn't know how to be a leader to him. And he's a young, beautiful, talented horse that we really want to set up for success for his future. So Christy worked super consistently with him. She did all of these exercises, and he went from being in fight or flight mode to look how relaxed he is after. You can see his head is down. She's got a nice bend in his body. He's paying attention to her. What a difference, right? Such a difference. And that's all just from Groundwork. So here's what we have so far in the course: the science of horsemanship, the essential exercises, total value $1,496. I have a really good deal for you today because it's winter and because I really want to help you with implementing these exercises. So I'm going to give you a super good price on the course. So the next part of the course is problem solving. So let me know in the chat, what is like that one problem you're having? Like, oh, my horse won't go in the trailer. My horse is biting me. My horse is super spooky. I don't know even how to start. So what I've done is I put real life training. So I show Ralph here when he won't get into the 2-horse trailer. I show an example of how I address a horse that's a little nippy. I show videos of me teaching students who have never done groundwork before. So really breaking it down, how to hold the lunge line, where to position your body to get the effect that you need. Here's another one of our students, Stacy. I know Stacy's here today. She was really struggling with her young horse Donka on trailer loading, and he can also be a little tricky because he was an orphan foal. And so she's had him since he was a baby, and he needed a lot of nursing and caretaking when he was young. So sometimes he doesn't see her enough as a leader. But what's really cool is she's been working super consistently with him, and he's getting way better about loading in the trailer. Okay, so here's what we have so far: the science of horsemanship, the essential exercises, problem solving. With these 3 things, you should notice an immediate improvement with your horse. Your horse is going to start paying attention more. Your horse is going to start trusting you more. And super, super important. Total value, $2,493. Like I mentioned, I have a really good deal for you today. But when you think about like what it would cost to send your horse for training or to learn all of this stuff on your own, definitely worth that amount. So the next part of the course is where it gets really, really fun. So let me know in the chat, what is a dressage movement that you're struggling with? Like, what is one thing under saddle that you're like, oh, I just can't get my horse soft. I can't get my horse to move over. Okay, haunches in, the canter, half pass, flying changes. Okay, so groundwork isn't just for Western riders. It's not just for young horses or beginners, but you can train pretty much all of the dressage movements from the ground up. So here I'm teaching bend. Here I've got rein back going. There, someone said haunches in. You can see here on the bottom, I'm teaching Mercurio how to do haunches in from the ground. And I always find that teaching it from the ground enables you to be actually more effective. So This is a little pyramid that I made to show you about groundwork, but basically you start with ground manners. That's like the essential exercises. Then you work on suppleness, so bending and relaxation. Then you work on connection. Then you can start teaching your horse lateral work. And then you can work on piaffe, in-hand work, and long lining. You can train halts, leg yield, shoulder in, bending, rein back, turn on the forehand. All of that you can teach from the ground. And I think we saw that with what Rebecca was doing with Emke, right? The course also includes piaffe training, step by step. So the middle photo here is one of the really important steps in teaching your horse how to piaffe from the ground, which we call leg lifting. And this is actually something that you all can start doing because it really teaches your horse to think about their hind legs, and it will help to strengthen your horse's hind end. So basically you just teach your horse that when you touch their cannon bone, that they lift and hold their hind leg up. And then what I show inside the course is my system for how to train the piaffe. It's really important when you're training the piaffe that you break it down and that you teach it step by step. I used to just kind of one day be like, okay, today we're going to piaffe in hand. And it just ended up being a disaster. The horse was like running on top of me. But when you break it down step by step, any horse can learn how to piaffe. So if your horse can trot, your horse can learn how to piaffe. It's just a matter of teaching them step by step how to get there. The course also includes lunging and long lining for connection. And I know people always ask me like, Amelia, can you teach us how to lunge? Can you teach us how to long line? You'll notice that I put a lot of free content out there, but I don't ever really show these techniques because it's really important with lunging and long lining and introducing side reins that you do it correctly and that you and your horse have the correct foundation. You don't want to just put tight side reins on a horse that's never had side reins on before because they can really panic. They can get tangled up in the lines. And you also, when you lunge your horses, you want your horse to be going in the frame of mind and the frame of body that you want for riding. So you can see here, I'm lunging this horse X. He's in a nice frame. He's round. He's in a nice rhythm. You do not want to let your horse just race 1,000 miles around you, counter bending, falling in, head up, because that's also going to be hard on their body, right? It's going to cause them to have an injury. Okay, so here's what we have so far. The science of horsemanship, the essential exercises, problem solving, dressage, groundwork, piaffe training, lunging and long lining, total value $6,084. Like I mentioned, I have a super good deal for you today. The last part of the course is, okay, Amelia, that all this groundwork is great, but how does this actually transfer to my riding? Like, how is this actually going to help me ride? Because I want to ride my horse. Yes, I think we all want to ride our horses. So the last part of the course is really about how to transfer what you've done on the ground to getting on your horse. So my 5-minute pre-ride groundwork routine, this is what I kind of go through just before I get on my horse. And it really does make a difference, not only in helping you to stay safe and check in before you get on your horse, but also in getting your horse warmed up and better connected so that you don't have to work through so much of that once you're in the saddle. And this is so funny. Amanda, she's like, I had a light bulb moment. I used to think that I should just do groundwork days. And then one day she did groundwork first and then got on. And she was like, it was such an amazing ride. It was such a difference. So definitely I recommend doing the groundwork just before you get on. That's like the best time to get on your horse is after you've done the groundwork. Okay, so here's everything in the course. Science of horsemanship, the essential exercises, problem solving, dressage, groundwork, piaffe training, lunging and long lining, groundwork for riding, everything I do with my horses on the ground. Total value, $6,883. Like I mentioned, I have a great deal today because it's winter, but if I added up all the lessons I've taken, all the groundwork I've learned, I would definitely pay at least that much to learn all of this stuff. So let me ask you this. If all the Groundwork Super Pack did was to give you confidence and avoid an accident, would it be worth it? What would it be worth to avoid getting hurt or to avoid having a setback with your horse? Okay, I see yes. If all the Groundwork Super Pack did was to develop trust and clear communication with your horse, would it be worth it? That connection, right? What would it be worth to really have that emotional and physical connection with your horse? If all the Groundwork Super Pack did was to teach your horse to load in the trailer, stand at the mounting block, put their head down for the bridle, and become round and soft, would it be worth it? I think we'd all agree that when your horse is with you, when you are able to communicate with them on the ground and under saddle, it's so much better. What would it be worth? These are quotes from my students. What would it be worth to feel like this? I have more confidence. We have a partnership. I understand her reactions and how she learns. My horse walked right into the trailer. I felt my horse soften for the first time. Okay, so I'd like to invite you to join the Ultimate Groundwork Super Pack. The price today is $649. And remember, that includes all of these things. So you have the science of horsemanship, the essential exercises, problem solving, dressage, groundwork, PF training, lunging and long lining, groundwork for riding. There's a ton of content in there. There is also a payment plan option, which I forgot to include here. But if you head over to amelianewcomb-dressage.com/ultimate groundwork super pack, you can sign up if you're interested. If you're like, yes, Amelia, that was epic. I really want to learn how to do all of this groundwork stuff. Like I mentioned, inside the course, I tried to pack as much as I could into today. But if you need more help with really breaking it down and knowing the exact sequence of exercises, how to position yourself, how to problem solve, that is all included in the course. You have lifetime access to the exercises. There's over 135 exercises inside of this course. If you are in Strides or if you've taken one of my groundwork courses in the past, check your email. And there is a $200 off coupon. So I just wanted to do that for you if you are in the program. I know a lot of you are in Strides. And you might be wondering, well, I don't know, I'm in Strides. Should I also join this? So in Strides, I do teach groundwork. In Strides, there's a groundwork exercise every single month for you. You can always submit your groundwork videos in Strides, and we're always happy to give you help on your groundwork in Strides. If you really want to dive in and I want to learn everything about groundwork, I'm in, this is what I need, then I would definitely recommend signing up for the Super Pack. And just make sure that you enter the coupon code so that you get that discount. There is a link to join. So if you're interested, head over to amelianewcomb-dressage.com/ultimate groundwork super pack. And here's your options. So you can either sign up for Groundwork Essentials. So Groundwork Essentials is the science of horsemanship, the essential exercises, and problem solving. So Groundwork Essentials course is basically the foundation of all of your rope halter kind of basic handling groundwork. That is $299 for that course. The Dressage Groundwork Masterclass is all of the dressage movements. So the dressage groundwork, the PF training, the lunging and long lining, the groundwork for riding. So if you just want to get one of those courses, those are your options. The Ultimate Groundwork Super Pack includes both Groundwork Essentials and the Dressage Groundwork Masterclass for $649. And you also, with the Ultimate Groundwork Super Pack, you also get 6 weeks of video review sessions. So the Ultimate Groundwork Super Pack is kind of the best value. But if you just want one or either just Groundwork Essentials or the Dressage Groundwork Masterclass, you can also just sign up for one of those courses. The link where you can get more information is amelianewcomb-dressage.com/ultimate groundwork super pack. Also included today, I've included free video review sessions. So we're going to be doing 6 weeks of video review sessions. What this means is that you can film yourself doing the groundwork, submit it for a live call with either myself or someone on my team, and we'll give you that personalized feedback. This is super, super helpful, especially if you haven't done groundwork before, or you're not sure if you're doing it right or what's going on. Basically, you can even just set your phone on the side of the arena, do a little groundwork in front of it, send it in. I have an amazing tech team that can help you out with getting your video submitted. And that way we can give you feedback and say, no, you're not doing it quite right. Make sure you're stepping towards your horse, position your hand differently. So that is super, super valuable for when you sign up for the Super Pack. Also, if you sign up during the webinar today, we will be sending out my top 10 training exercise book and a 2026 calendar to help you stay accountable for the year ahead. So we'll be mailing those to you if you're in the US. If you sign up today before we sign off, I still have a video to show you, which I'm going to be showing you. So if you're interested, head over to amelianewcomb-dressage.com/ultimate groundwork super pack. I will have my team put that link in the chat for you. If you have questions, put those in the chat as well. Also check your email because we have emailed you the link to your inbox. Included today, I'm also putting in my Lunging for Roundness workshop, because I know we talked a lot about connection and how you can solve those connection issues. This lunging workshop is really useful if your horse is heavy or stiff or a little bit hollow, or also horses that are really fussy in the contact. I find that teaching them how to lunge properly, the right way, can be really, really helpful for those horses. So here's a peek at all of the exercises in the course. Like I said, it's a lot. So we have the horsemanship theory, the essential exercises, flag work, which is great for desensitizing, troubleshooting. Then we have all of the groundwork for riding, groundwork for young horses, and then also all of the dressage groundwork. So the suppleness, the connection exercises, the lateral work exercises, the piaffe exercises, the riding exercises. Oh my gosh, it's a lot. 135 video exercises. And don't worry, because you have lifetime access to all of the content. There's podcasts so that you can listen on to the go. There's beginner, intermediate, and advanced level groundwork exercises. You also can get USDF credit. So if you complete these courses, you can fill out a form when you're done with the courses, and you will get USDF credit. There's a mobile app for my program, so that way you can learn on the go. And yes, there is a coupon for $200 off if you are in Strides or if you've taken one of the groundwork courses previously. The course also comes with a no-risk 30-day money-back guarantee. That means that if you're on the fence, you can try it out, see, give it a try some exercises. If it's not for you, no worries. We'll send you your money back. I always put that in there because I know that joining an online program can definitely feel a little scary. So you have two choices. Like I mentioned, I tried to give you, let me know in the chat if you learned something today. I always try to give you a ton of value. But the Super Pack is really about changing, right? It's about trying something different. It's about committing to learning the groundwork stuff, committing to getting over that hurdle of making it part of your routine and figuring out how you don't feel so awkward, and getting over that hurdle too. I think a lot of you maybe I haven't ever done groundwork before, and so your horse is a little pushy, or they get a little resentful when you start trying to do groundwork at first with them. But like I mentioned, and I think you were all inspired by Rebecca's video, it can unlock a whole new window of opportunity and a whole new way to communicate and connect with your horse. So I'd love to have you, but like I mentioned, this is really up to you whether or not you want to join. And if you don't want to join now, or if it's not a good time, that's totally fine as well. But I do think that if you're feeling a little discouraged this winter, or it's hard to stay consistent, now's a great time to focus on groundwork so that you're really ready for when spring comes. So 6 weeks from now, it's going to be spring. Your horse is feeling happy and excited. What are you going to do? Jump on and pray for the best, leave your horse in the stall, wish you'd enrolled in the Groundwork Super Pack, or start with your groundwork practice. Groundwork, like I said, it's like for those days when your horse is up or excited or tense or nervous, you're like, okay, this is when I need my insurance policy. This is when I need to do my groundwork. Here's one of my students, Michael. He's been doing a lot of groundwork with his horse, and he says, it took him a while, but I am becoming a fan of groundwork. It's a really great experience how we can train our horse about our aids, about our cooperation by being just next to them. There's something about that connection of being beside your horse that's special and certainly different than when you're in the saddle. So Groundwork Super Pack will help you develop connection, confidence, more effective and clear aids, engaged top line, a happier, healthier horse, an active hind leg, a supple feeling, all of these things. And it's a tool that's gotten me through some of the toughest times in my life. Like I mentioned today, I was like, I don't know, should I even teach these guys about groundwork? But when I think back to it, like I told you the story of Geronimo. In the middle there is Scotty. That's the first horse I ever started. And then also anytime I've had injuries, like I had a back injury earlier this year, and I was able to do groundwork well before I could start riding. And I was so grateful that I had so many skills on the ground. Because like with Kensington, I was able to keep him fit, and we worked on piaffe and passage, and we did so much from the ground. And then when I got on him, he was fit. He was mentally with me and paying attention. He wasn't all fresh and crazy. And so it can definitely help if you're injured or if your horse is injured to just get you over that hump and get you back in the saddle. One of my biggest training principles, which I'm sure if you've been here a while, you know, is consistency. And groundwork is a great tool for days when the weather isn't perfect or you don't feel up for it, that you can still stay consistent, that you can still work on your partnership and your connection with your horse, because it's so important. Consistency is so important. So enrollment ends on Sunday, next Sunday, January 25th. And the link to join is amelianewcomb-dressage.com/ultimate groundwork super pack. We do have time for a little bit of Q&A, and I have one more video to show you. I wanted to show you, as a thank you for being here today, I wanted to show you a video for how to work on roundness from the ground with one of my horses. And then we will have time for a little bit of a Q&A. I know we have a ton of questions, so I'll let Lexi do some questions.
Yeah, thank you. So you touched on this a little bit with future and the soft feel exercise, but Amelia, a lot of our common questions from today, especially talking about connection, was, okay, I understand how to do the bend or how to turn my horse, but how do we keep them moving forward from the ground? Or how do you drive your horse forward when you're doing groundwork?
So that's a good question. A lot of it is body language, and it depends on if you're leading your horse, like standing beside your horse, or if you're driving your horse around you on a circle. So if you're leading your horse, when I'm leading my horse, I want to be in front of the shoulder, but behind my horse's nose. So I start by just walking forward and kind of leading my hand forward, which is going to put pressure on either the halter or if you have your bridle on the bit. And then if your horse doesn't follow that lead, you can use your outside hand to send your horse forward. You want to make sure if you use your whip or like the tail of your lead rope, you want to make sure that you tap your horse behind the shoulder. So the shoulder is the drive line of your horse. And if you want your horse to go forward, you need to be behind the drive line, which is behind the shoulder. If you want your horse to stop, then you're in front of the shoulder. So the short answer is that the way you get your horse to go forward depends on where you're positioned. It depends on your body language, because ideally, if you like step towards your horse, they move away from you. If you start walking forward, they walk with you. And then if your horse doesn't listen to your body language, then you can use either a dressage whip or the tail of your rope to drive your horse forward. And I explain all of that more in the course, like where to position yourself and then how to use those auxiliary aids, which are either swinging your rope, which is a skill you need to learn, or your body language to get your horse going forward.
I think that's too where the video review opportunities are so helpful too. We talked a lot about how sometimes groundwork can feel a little bit awkward or uncomfortable when we're learning, and seeing it and getting coached on your positioning is so helpful for sure.
Definitely.
So speaking of some of the rope swinging things or those auxiliary aids, what equipment do you recommend for Amelia or for groundwork, Amelia? There was some questions about, can I use a halter? Can I use a bitless bridle? Or what does that look like?
Yeah, so it depends a little bit. I really like to use rope halters for the groundwork, because the rope halter, it gives you a little bit more precision with what you can do with the groundwork. So just like the thick leather or webbed halters is really easy for your horse to just kind of like ignore and drag you around, the rope halters have little knots on the pressure point of your horse's nose. I prefer the rope halter over a chain, because the rope halter, you can release the pressure. And with a chain, when you pull on the chain, it often just tightens on your horse's nose and you can't get the pressure to release. So for the basic groundwork, I like to use a rope halter. If you're working more on like the dressage groundwork and the connection, then I'll often do it with a bridle, because it transfers more over to the riding. The advantage of the rope halter is that you're not pulling on your horse's mouth. So if you need to firm up or explain something, it can be, or if you have a young horse, then the rope halter is great. The advantage of the bit is that some horses, especially if they've learned to really ignore the pressure of the halter, you can be a little bit more effective and they're more respectful of the bit. So, and we go through that again in the course of helping you decide like what equipment to use, but those are kind of the two main things that you need.
Awesome. Great. So, like you mentioned at the beginning, a cool part of groundwork is teaching your horse skills for when you're riding, but also working on that connection. So, of course, all of us want to have good connection and relationships with our horses. So, there were some questions at the beginning about things like the space bubble exercise or getting your horse to respect your space. How do you balance managing that, Amelia, while also like scratching your horse and loving on them or inviting them in to snuggle or things like that?
That's always a tricky thing, because I think that we do want to be affectionate and we do want to have that connection. But the biggest thing is that it always should be your decision. So I think of like, okay, I have my space bubble. And then if I want to go into my horse, it's a little bit of a softer body language. As I step towards my horse, I'm a little slower and softer with my body. And I go in and I pet my horse. But I never want my horse to just come into me. So someone made this analogy one time of because I had this horse that was like, he always wanted to have his mouth on you. Like he wanted to be like, he didn't really bite, but he was just always like nuzzling my arms. And I was working with a trainer at the time, and they were like, can you imagine if you were in the grocery store and someone just like came and they were like right in your space and they started like putting their lips on you? Like that would just feel so like it just wouldn't be right. So it's kind of the same thing with our horses. Is just a little bit of that respect and that boundary, and that you have that communication, then you go towards your horse as opposed to your horse just coming on top of you. But I don't know. Have you ever experienced that, Lexi, where someone just like comes like way up in your face and you're like, whoa, like personal
Take a
space?
step back. Yes.
Yeah. So it's kind of
Totally.
the same thing. You want to check it out and then go slowly into their space.
Absolutely, especially when the other person is a horse and is much larger than you in most instances in that
Yeah,
arena.
definitely.
Awesome. So, Amelia, we're getting some questions about we did groundwork essentials recently, or maybe people have taken a groundwork course before. How is this course different, or how might you keep learning if you enroll in the Super PAC now?
Yeah, so the advantage of the super PAC is that we have the video review sessions, which are great. So we're going to have 6 weeks of the video review sessions. And you do get that $200 discount. So if you already have one of the courses, we kind of take care of that with the discount. And you also get that discount if you're in strides. And it's just a great time. You know, there's so much content inside of these courses. So it's a great time to go back through, participate in the activities and the Facebook group, get that help. And especially in the winter is, you know, we all struggle a little bit with staying consistent during the winter. So I think it's a great time of year to do that. And let's see, who has joined so far? Let's see, Julie joined. Awesome. Felicity has joined. Wendy, Linda, Heather. Okay, awesome. I see we've got a lot of people joining. So let's do a couple more questions. Remember to sign up before the end of the webinar if you want to get the calendar and the 10 exercise book mailed to you, as long as you're in the US. And I have time for a few more questions and then I'll turn it over to you, Lexi.
Awesome. Sounds great. Let's see. Here is a good question. How often do you do groundwork with your horses, Amelia? And does that look different for, like you mentioned, you do them with your Grand Prix horses to starting babies and everything in between. So how often do you do groundwork?
Well, remember that we define groundwork as any time you're on the ground with your horse. So I would say I do groundwork every single day because when I'm haltering my horse, will they put their head down? When I'm bridling, like bridling is a great time that you can take a little time to kind of bond with your horse, get them to put their head down, scratch them on the withers, check in with their mental state, because if you can't get their head to go down to put the bridle on, then you're like, oh, okay, we're a little nervous today. We might need to work on this. So I do think that it part of it is just an awareness that you have all the time when you're with your horses on the ground. Then as far as, so my 6-year-old Future that you saw there, I do groundwork with him like really every day because he's a younger horse and he needs some help with like developing his top line. And he also can be a little bit sometimes nervous and spooky. So I do groundwork with him every day. With Kensington, my Grand Prix horse, I make a point of working him on the ground 1 to 2 times per week where I'll maybe do a little bit of lunging or some in-hand work with him. So, but again, it just depends on the horse. And then of course, when you can't ride because it's raining or snowing or slippery or whatever, then definitely I am doing groundwork on those days.
Awesome. So you're motivating us and making us feel inspired and excited about the piaffe with our horses, right? Can you talk a little bit about like what is a realistic goal for teaching your horse to piaffe, or what are the benefits of doing some of those foundational beginning practice towards piaffe, even when you're nowhere near about to ride that in a dressage test?
Great question. So I had this horse, and I was really struggling with the trot canter transition. I just felt like I was like, his hind legs are back in Texas. He has no clue where they are. And he was young and he was nowhere near doing piaffe. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna start doing the leg lifting with him. So basically just teaching him when I touch him with a stick to lift and hold his leg one at a time. And it was super interesting because he was so weak behind that he really had trouble balancing, especially on his right hind leg. And he would put his right hind leg way out behind him and like kind of like it made me realize how weak and uncoordinated he was. So I started just working on the leg lifting with him before I got on him every day. And it was so cool because it really helped with his trot canter transition. It was just like something about the leg lifting got him a little stronger and also got his brain thinking about his hind legs. So that's a great example of, even if you're nowhere near Grand Prix, it does help to get your horse thinking of their hind legs to get your horse stronger behind. As far as timeline, I break that out into the course for you of like the steps to take and how long it's going to take. It's definitely a process to teach the PF. I used to make the mistake, like I said, of just kind of thinking it was going to happen on the first day. But the more that you understand those steps that you need to take, and just start like everything. If your goal is PF and you work consistently at it, if you worked like a little bit at it every single day for 2 3 months, you could realistically start getting like, and again, it's just 1 2 steps to start with. But it's just a matter of how consistent you are. So, but yeah, all that's kind of outlined in the course for you are those baby steps that you need to be taking with your horse.
That's awesome. If there was anyone who joined us for boot camp in the last few weeks, we talked a lot about goal setting and even shaping plans to create how to do those goals. And
Yeah.
I think this course is really exciting because it's almost like setting you up with a shaping plan, with starting the foundational exercises of groundwork all the way through training PF. So really cool to be able to have that framework in place.
Yeah. Awesome.
Awesome. Well, we're wrapping up on our questions, Amelia. So I will stick around and answer any of the other questions in the chat and also answer questions about the course or with signups. But thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you, Lexi, and thank you everyone for being here. I hope you learned a lot, and welcome to all of our new course members. We're going to be doing orientation next Sunday, and then we're going to be kicking off our live video review session. So get started on your groundwork, and we'll see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Amelia.
Bye.
All right, so I'm gonna stick around and I will keep answering some of the questions I've seen come through in the chat, as well as questions about the course. I'm also going to share the link if you're interested in learning more about the course in the chat right now. So yeah, Amelia mentioned this, but the live sessions that accompany the Groundwork Super Pack course, we start those at the end of January, and then that video review opportunity happens once a week for 6 weeks, so end of January through the first week of March. I see a few questions in here about the discount code. So if you're a current Strides member or if you've taken a groundwork course from us in the past, you should have received an email just a little bit ago that has that coupon code inside it. So be sure to look through that email. I think it's like right in the middle of the email or towards the end. If you don't see that email, you can always email us at support@amelianewcomedressage.com and we can help get you that code as well as your bonuses for signing up today. If you have questions about your purchase or need that code applied, email us at support@amelianewcomedressage.com and you can find it that way. So again, any questions about that coupon code, no worries at all. We're always happy to help troubleshoot those tech things. Email us at support@amelianewcomedressage.com and we will be sure to get you the help you need because we're excited to have you. Let's see. So, some other questions about the course. I saw a question about groundwork in general on if Amelia saddles her horse to do groundwork or does groundwork with or without a saddle on. The answer is kind of both. So, you'll notice in Amelia's groundwork videos, sometimes the horse has a saddle on, other times it doesn't. It sometimes depends on, like Amelia said, she loves to do and encourage us all to think about doing groundwork before you get on and ride. So that may be that you have the saddle on because you're going to get on and ride later. Sometimes the saddle can also be helpful because it can kind of help you visualize where to place your hand or where to use that little leg aid to help with getting your horse to move over. But you are able to do groundwork with or without a saddle on. Let's see, a question about videos. Awesome. So yeah, a lot of our students will use Pivos for videoing themselves, which is a special equestrian option camera that will follow yourself. So look up Pivo if you're interested in videoing yourself riding or doing groundwork too. Amelia has a few different cameras that she uses for creating her content, but also uses Pivo sometimes too. I'm going to share, I see some questions about the link to sign up So I'm going to add that in the chat again. I see some questions about mailing outside of the US. So we're only able to ship items within the US right now. But if you are outside of the US, we send PDF versions or digital versions of those calendars or those exercise books. So you'll get it in that way for sure. We also have had many international students find success in printing those items on their own. So we can share some tips that way too. Good question, Sharon. Thank you. All right. Okay, I'm scrolling through so I can get all these questions answered. Here's this link in the chat as well. Awesome. Yes, so great question. One of the huge benefits to enrolling in any of Amelia's programs is the lifetime access to the content. So I think that's huge and really shows that Amelia believes that learning is a process that never stops, right? So a huge benefit to enrollment is that you have lifetime access to all of the content. And what that means is you'll have access to the content in your account so that you can continue to go back, refer to those exercises, use those videos from now and for forever. So that's helpful if you start using a different horse than you have now, or you need a refresher on something. That lifetime access is huge. Again, those video review opportunities are going to be for a 6-week period. So there you have 6 weeks to submit those videos once per week. Otherwise, lifetime access to the content otherwise. Some questions about how long you have to enroll in our Groundwork Super Pack offer right now. So our sale is open through January 25th. Had to check that date, but January 25th is how long this offer is available. You can use that coupon code that we've mentioned through the 25th, so no worries or no rush if you're not seeing it right now or you need a moment to think about it. Again, if you still can't find the coupon, email us at support@amelianewcomb-dressage.com. Let's see. Yes. So Sharon's asking about how we can access the content from the barn. Great question. So we have a mobile app version of our content, or you can even access it just through the web on your phone. So lots of students use it on their app, or will even screenshot specific things they want to come back to, all that good stuff. So you can definitely take it on the road for sure. Okay. If you're still not finding your coupon code, email us at support@amelianewcomb-dressage.com and we will get you the help that you need for using that coupon code. So support@amelianewcomb-dressage.com is the best way that we can help you if you have individual questions about your coupon or your purchase yourself. Okay. Awesome. I'm going to share the link again so that you can enroll or learn more about the course and these options in the chats. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us today. It was so fun to kick off the weekend talking about Groundwork. We hope that we get to see you in our Groundwork Super Pack course and in video review soon. Again, if you have any questions, go ahead and email us at support@amelianewcomb-dressage.com. Thank you so much and have a great day.